Gold was a woman the world admired and envied. At just 32, she was one of the richest women alive. She owned luxury hotels, real estate across continents, and a fashion empire that carried her name. Her beauty was just as legendary: smooth caramel skin, soft brown eyes, and hair that danced like silk in the wind. But all her beauty and billions could not buy her what she truly wanted: real love. Every man who came into her life wanted something: access, status, a piece of her empire. None wanted her. Not the girl who laughed too loudly at silly things, not the woman who loved early morning walks and rainy nights. Just the billionaire. One night, Camilla sat alone on the balcony of her penthouse, watching the city lights sparkle below. "I'm tired," she whispered into the cold night. "I want someone to love me, not my money." And so, a wild idea was born. Camilla Gold sat alone in her penthouse suite, surrounded by everything a woman could dream of: crystal chandeliers, Italian marble floors, velvet curtains that swayed with the evening breeze, and the distant hum of the city below. But inside her chest, she felt a gaping hole money couldn't fill. The world knew her as the Golden Queen. She had graced the covers of Forbes, Vogue, and Time, all in 1 year. Her billion-dollar fashion brand, Gold Touch, had dressed royalty and celebrities. Women wanted to be her. Men wanted to win her. But Camilla, she just wanted to be loved. Truly, deeply, honestly. But love, for someone like her, was a luxury she could never buy. Her first heartbreak came at 23. His name was Marcus, a charming investment banker with a golden smile and a clever tongue. They met at a gala. He made her laugh, brought her flowers, and listened to her childhood stories like they were the most sacred things in the world. She fell hard. She thought he did too. Until the day she found out he had taken her company's confidential data and sold it to her biggest competitor. He didn't love her. He just wanted access. Then came Elijah, the poet. He didn't care about business, money, or brands. He lived in a modest apartment and recited verses about stars and soulmates. Camilla believed she had finally found someone who saw beyond her wealth. She gave him her heart, and he gave her emptiness. When she traveled for work, he filled their bed with other women. He loved her money, not her soul. There were others. Suitors with painted smiles. Men who whispered promises and kissed her hand while counting her coins. Each heartbreak stripped a piece of her trust, until all she had left was suspicion wrapped in silence. Camilla had everything. Except peace. One evening, she hosted a private dinner at her mansion for a charity event. 50 guests. Gold-plated cutlery. A violinist flown in from Vienna. But not one conversation at that table felt real. Every smile aimed at her was rehearsed. Every compliment felt like bait. She sat at the head of the table, surrounded by the rich and powerful, and had never felt so alone. After the guests left, she went out to her balcony barefoot, ignoring the cold tiles under her feet. The city lights twinkled far below, like tiny stars pretending to be alive. But they were fake, just like the love she kept chasing. "I don't want this life, not like this," she whispered to the wind. Then a thought struck her, wild and strange. What if she could erase all of it? The money, the fame, the gold name. Strip herself down to nothing but her heart. What if she became no one? That night, Camilla couldn't sleep. She sat in her room scrolling through videos of people living simple lives. A street food vendor in Kenya who smiled with every customer. A woman in Indonesia teaching kids under a tree. A man in Brazil fixing bicycles for free because, as he said, it's not about money. It's about people. That's what she was missing. People. Real ones. Not those who looked at her bank account before her face. The idea consumed her. She would disappear. Go undercover. Become invisible. She would pretend to be poor. And to make sure no man tried to rescue her out of pity or chase her for beauty, she she would pretend to be crippled. To test love in its rawest, most uncomfortable form. A woman with no legs, no status, no power. Only a heart. Vulnerable, exposed, and longing for something real. Camilla called her most trusted employee the next morning, her childhood friend turned personal assistant, Miriam. Miriam was the only person in Camilla's world who had never changed because of the money. "I need your help," Camilla said, serious. Miriam looked alarmed. "Is everything okay?" "I want to disappear. For 3 months. Maybe more. I need to become someone else. A nobody." Miriam blinked. "Sweetheart, are you having a breakdown?" "No," Camilla said. "I'm having a breakthrough." The plan came together quickly. Miriam found a small apartment on the edge of the city, a neighborhood no one would think to look for her in. Camilla changed her appearance. She cut her luxurious hair short, dyed it black, and let it curl naturally. She bought second-hand clothes, simple and worn. No jewelry. No makeup. They ordered a lightweight wheelchair online. Camilla practiced how to move with it, how to act as if her legs had no strength. It wasn't easy, but she was determined. Miriam cried the day they both left the mansion. "You don't have to do this," she said. "You can find someone the normal way." "I've tried the normal way," Camilla replied. "It almost destroyed me." And so, the Golden Queen vanished. In her place was Millie, a soft-spoken woman with sad eyes, small hands, and a silent story no one asked about. She rolled herself into a neighborhood where the streets had cracks, the walls had graffiti, and laughter echoed in the open air. Here, she would search for something rare. Something priceless. True love. Not for what she owned. Not for how she looked. But for who she was, broken, beautiful, and real. Camilla sat quietly in her small apartment, dressed in a plain floral gown, her curly hair tucked under a scarf. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen table, Moem flashing across the screen. She sighed deeply. She had hoped to speak to her mother after settling in, but word must have reached her early. She picked up. "Hi, Mom. What is this madness I'm hearing?" Her mother, Diana Gold, asked without greeting. "You've left the mansion? You're pretending to be crippled? Camilla, are you out of your mind?" Camilla leaned her head against the cold wall. "I'm not out of my mind, Mom. I'm finally trying to use it." Diana's voice softened a little. "Baby, why? Why would you do something so drastic?" Camilla closed her eyes, took a deep breath. "Because I've never been loved, Mom. I've been bought, praised, used, lied to, and left. But never, never loved. Not for who I really, just for what I have. I need to find someone who'll love me if I have nothing." "You think making yourself poor and crippled will do that?" "I don't know," Camilla admitted. "But it's the only way I know how to see through the lies. If someone can love Millie, the version of me that has nothing, then maybe they'll love Camilla too." There was a long silence on the other end. Then a gentle sniff. "Oh, baby," Diana said quietly, "I wish I had seen all this. I wish I had protected you from those men." "You always told me to follow my heart," Camilla said. "This is my heart's direction." Diana sighed. "I wanted you to find love, yes. But not like this. This sounds dangerous, uncomfortable. What if you get hurt again?" "I'm not afraid of pain anymore, Mom. I'm more afraid of living my life surrounded by fake smiles and empty kisses." Diana exhaled deeply. "You've changed. You sound so serious, so tired." "I am tired." There was another pause. Then her mother said something that surprised her. "Then go. Do what you need to do. I may not understand it, but I trust your heart. And I'll be here always if you ever need to come home." Tears rushed to Camilla's eyes. Thank you, Mom. But promise me something, Diana added. Pray. Keep your mind strong. And don't lose yourself in the disguise. You may be acting poor, but you're still my daughter. Still royalty in your spirit. I promise. And Camilla? Yes. If you find someone, I hope he's blind to your beauty and wide-eyed to your soul. That night, Camilla knelt by her mattress and wept. Not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time in years, someone had finally heard her pain and believed in her mission. Camilla was just finishing a small meal of beans and boiled yam when her phone rang again. This time the caller ID read, Dad. She braced herself. Camilla. His voice boomed the moment she answered. I just got off the phone with your mother. Tell me it's not true. Tell me my daughter has not disgraced this family by pretending to be a beggar in some corner of the city. She swallowed. It's true, Dad. I'm doing this for myself. To find real love. Real love, he barked. Love is a privilege, not a mission. What kind of foolish movie have you inserted yourself into? You're a gold. You don't audition for love. You command it. No, Father, she replied quietly. That's the mistake. I don't want to command love. I want to earn it. You don't need to earn anything. You already have what most people would kill for. Except honesty, Camilla whispered. And peace. And someone who sees me. There was silence. Then he laughed bitterly. You've been spending too much time watching fairy tales. What happens when someone you meet discovers your truth? They'll feel lied to, deceived. I'd rather be hated for hiding my wealth than be loved for flashing it. You're wasting your time. Then let me waste it, Father. Please. There was a pause. Then his voice grew stern. 2 months. I'll give you that. If you haven't found what you're looking for by then, I'm sending someone to bring you back. We'll book therapy. A quiet retreat. Maybe even a counselor. But this charade will end. And if I don't come, you will come. You're my daughter. Camilla sat up straighter. And I'll always be your daughter. But don't test how far I'm willing to go for something real. If you try to interfere before I'm ready, I'll leave this country. I'll go to America. I'll vanish, and no private investigator will ever find me. I know how to disappear. You taught me how to build empires. I know how to leave them. There was a long, thunderous silence. Camilla, her father finally said, softer. Is this really what you want? Yes, Father. More than I've ever wanted anything. Then go. But mark my words, if this ends in tears, don't expect me to say, I told you so. I'll just be there to wipe your face. For the first time in years, Camilla smiled. That's all I ever needed, Dad. As the call ended, she let out a shaky breath. Her mother had blessed her journey. Her father had tried to stop it, but now gave her a deadline. 2 months. 8 weeks to find a kind heart in a cruel world. She looked at the calendar pinned on her wall and circled the last day of the 8th week. This was no longer just a test of love. It was a countdown. Would someone love her as Millie, the poor, crippled, forgotten girl? Or would she return home, heart heavier than ever? Only time would tell. Please subscribe. The day Camilla moved into her modest apartment in the outskirts of the city, the air was thick with a scent of unspoken courage and quiet resolve. The flat was nothing like the marble-lined halls of the Gold Estate. Its faded yellow walls bore chipped paint and stories of those who came before her. The bathroom faucet wheezed before releasing any water, and the ceiling fan spun like it needed encouragement. But to Camilla, it felt like freedom. Beside her stood Miriam, her most loyal friend, and now her accomplice. Miriam had been with Camilla since college. She had been her roommate, her confidant, and later, her private assistant. She knew Camilla's heart, had seen it break too many times, and when Camilla had whispered her plans in a teary confession one night, Miriam hadn't laughed or scolded. She simply said, "Then let me walk beside you." Except now, she wouldn't just walk beside her. She would push her. Camilla's disguise was complete, an old but sturdy wheelchair, a simple collection of thrift store dresses, no makeup, and a practiced limp in one foot. Miriam handled the logistics, buying groceries from the open market, ironing the cheap dresses to avoid suspicion, handling their burner phones, and memorizing their new names, Millie and Mary. They had rehearsed everything like actresses before a stage play. "What's our story again?" Camilla asked one evening, sitting in the wheelchair near the window as the sun dipped behind the trees. Miriam, wiping a plate in the small kitchen, replied without hesitation, "You were in a minor accident 2 years ago. Your right leg still hurts occasionally, and the doctor said it could heal over time, but you can't afford the therapy." "And you?" "I'm your cousin from your mother's side. We moved in here after selling off a small inheritance to survive. You paint portraits from home, and I'm taking online courses." Camilla smiled. "You're good at this." "I better be. We've been over it 23 times. They both chuckled. But beneath the laughter was an ocean of anxiety. This wasn't just role-play. They were about to trick an entire community, and possibly a future lover. It had to be flawless. That night, Camilla sat on the balcony while Miriam folded laundry on the couch. A warm evening breeze ruffled the curtains as Camilla stared at the moon, her thoughts heavy. "You know you don't have to do this with me," she said gently. "I can manage alone. This is my crazy plan, not yours." Miriam looked up from the clothes. "And what? Let you get lonely? Let some random man manipulate you again because he sensed weakness? I know how fragile your heart is beneath that tough voice, Camilla. I'm not letting you walk this road alone, crippled or not." Camilla turned, eyes glassy. "What if this fails, Mimi? What if I end up finding another man who just pities me or wants a free ride in life?" Miriam stood and walked over to her, kneeling beside the wheelchair. She took Camilla's hand. "Then we pack our bags, tell your father he was right, and go back home with our heads held high. But if we succeed, if just one man sees you and says, 'I love this woman for her mind, her laughter, her struggle, not her money or name,' then it would have all been worth it." Camilla sniffed. "You always make things sound so poetic." "Maybe I should have been the heiress," Miriam teased, then added more seriously, "You've always deserved the kind of love that doesn't flinch when the lights go out. Now let's go find it." They squeezed each other's hands in quiet solidarity. The next few days were filled with routines they'd never had to endure before. Waking at dawn to fetch water from the shared tap. Navigating the market with coins in hand. Camilla painting tiny canvases with her left hand. She was developing just to keep the illusion alive. Miriam would sometimes act tired, dragging a bag of groceries as she pushed Camilla's wheelchair uphill, both of them sweaty and breathless. Neighbors began to notice them. The girl in the wheelchair with sad eyes. Her ever-cheerful cousin with quick hands. People started waving. An old woman gave them mangoes. A young child offered to push Camilla one day. The community was slowly warming up to them. Suspected a thing. But behind their quiet walls, the girls would laugh hysterically over dinner at the things they had to pretend not to know. "Did you see that man at the suya stand?" Miriam said one night. "He was bragging about how he runs a poultry empire. Meanwhile, he had feathers on his shoe." Camilla giggled, mouth full of rice. "And that woman who offered to spiritually cleanse my legs if I gave her 20 naira? I almost choked." They were poor, yes. They were authentic. No grand parties. No fake friends. Just honesty, even if wrapped in a lie. And then one afternoon, as Miriam helped Camilla settle by the roadside near the mechanic garage, just for fresh air, he appeared. A tall, handsome man in grease-stained overalls, carrying a spanner in one hand and a box of tools in the other. He glanced their way only briefly, but something about his gaze lingered. Not the way he looked at her legs, but the way he didn't. Camilla looked at Miriam. Miriam looked back, raising one eyebrow. Stage set. Camilla whispered, heart racing, "Let the drama begin." The sun that afternoon sat low in the sky, spilling golden light over the dusty streets. The scent of fried plantains wafted through the neighborhood, mixed with the oily musk of fuel and machine parts from the mechanic garage across the road. Camilla sat quietly by the sidewalk, her legs tucked neatly on the footrest of her worn wheelchair. She wore a simple cotton gown with faded roses. Miriam stood beside her, arms folded, trying to fan away the heat with a folded newspaper. And then they saw him. Jarel. He walked out of the garage, wiping his hands on a greasy rag. His overalls were unzipped halfway, revealing a plain white t-shirt beneath, clinging to a torso clearly used to manual labor. His skin glistened from the sun, and his steps were confident but not arrogant. As he passed them, his eyes flicked in their direction. He smiled, then winked. Not at Camilla. At Miriam. Miriam's eyebrows shot up. Her lips curled in mock disapproval, and she gave a dramatic frown, turning her face away. Camilla nearly burst into laughter but held it in. This was unexpected, and deliciously entertaining. Jarel took a few more steps, then slowed down, stopped, and turned around. He approached cautiously, like a man who knew how to read a room and wasn't in a rush to ruin the atmosphere. "Good afternoon," he said with a voice like warm ginger tea. "I hope I'm not disturbing anything." Miriam gave him a sideways glance but said nothing. "I'm Jarel," he added, smiling. "Mechanic. Just across the road." Camilla tilted her head politely. "Good afternoon, Jarel." "My name is Millie," Camilla announced. Miriam simply nodded. Jarel turned to Miriam. "And you? May I know your name?" Miriam sighed. "Miriam." He grinned. "Miriam. Lovely name. I'd like to be your friend." She raised an eyebrow. "I already have too many friends I can barely cope with." He chuckled, undeterred. "All right. Then let me be your helper." Miriam crossed her arms, amused. "Helper in what regard?" Jarel pointed at the wheelchair. "Whenever you're tired and can't push your friend, feel free to call me." Miriam blinked, impressed despite herself. "Oh, you mean my cousin." "Cousin," he repeated, nodding. "Even better." Miriam looked dramatically to the sky, then sighed. "As you can see, I'm already tired." Without another word, she gently stepped aside and handed over the wheelchair to him, grinning widely now. Jarel laughed, handed her his heavy tool bag, and positioned his hands carefully on the wheelchair handles. "All right, Miss Cousin," he said, glancing at Camilla. "Shall we?" Camilla smiled, a real one, surprised by how natural this all felt. They walked, Jarel pushing, Miriam carrying his tools and pretending to stretch her back like she'd been slaving all day. Laughter trailed them as neighbors watched, eyebrows raised. By the time they reached the small apartment gate, Camilla's cheeks ached from smiling, adjusted his grip on the chair, and turned to Miriam. "So, now that I've earned some points, can we be friends?" Miriam shook her head gently, smirking. "It's my friend that needs a friend more than I do." His eyes darted immediately to Camilla. He bowed slightly. "Ma'am, would you like a friend?" Camilla didn't hesitate. "Yes, I do." There was a quiet gasp in the air. Even Miriam looked a little shocked at her sudden honesty. Camilla reached into the small sling bag on her lap, brought out an old button phone, and handed it to Jarel. They exchanged numbers. No long talks. No clever lines. Just yes, I do and digits. Jarel nodded, slipping the phone number into his back pocket. All right then. I'll leave you two to rest. It was nice meeting you both. He turned without another word and walked back down the road, hands in his pockets, tool bag now back over his shoulder. As soon as he was out of sight, Miriam dropped onto the wooden bench beside the door and clutched her chest. That man just handed me a Shakespearean heart attack. Camilla giggled. And yet you gave him your burden with such joy. Miriam laughed. Oh please, he made pushing that chair look romantic. Camilla whispered, still smiling. He didn't even ask if I was okay. He just included me. And didn't blink twice about the chair, Miriam added. Not once. They both sat there in silence, the light from the setting sun casting a soft golden hue over the door of their little flat. The game had begun. And somewhere deep in Camilla's heart, a little flame sparked to life. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Press the notification button so you will be notified when the second part of his story loads. Till then, remain blessed. She faked being crippled for love? Part 2. Remember part 1 of this story. Camilla had everything, beauty, brains, and billions, but she didn't have love. After countless heartbreaks with men who only desired her wealth, Camilla, a young, beautiful, dark-skinned Nigerian billionaire heiress, made a shocking decision. She would pretend to be poor and crippled, just to find one thing: genuine love. Together with her loyal cousin Miriam, Camilla began a daring social experiment, and then came Jarel, a humble, handsome mechanic with the hands of a servant but the heart of a king. When their paths crossed, he didn't see a crippled girl, he saw a soul to protect. He lifted her, repaired her chair, brought her flowers, and gave her dignity, without knowing she owned more than his workshop could ever earn in. But while Jarel was falling in love with the broken girl in the wheelchair, Camilla every kind gesture, her lie grew heavier. And yet, Jarel never judged, he only loved. Unknowingly. So the real question is, what happens when a lie that began for love starts to break the heart it hoped to protect? Will she tell him the truth? Or will the truth destroy what could have been the most honest love she ever knew? This isn't just a story. It's a mirror to every heart that has ever wanted to be loved, not for wealth, status, or strength, but simply for being real. She faked being crippled for love? A journey of tears, twists, and truth. Hit subscribe and feel a story that will stay with you long after the credits roll. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks since that golden afternoon when Jarel pushed Millie home and gently asked if she needed a friend. But since then, there was nothing. Not a call. Not a message. Not a visit. Millie would occasionally stare at her phone, turning it in the screen to check for missed calls. Mary noticed. Of course, she did. But neither of them spoke about it directly. They both silently agreed not to call him. If Jarel was truly interested, truly sincere, he would reach out. Maybe he lost his phone, Mary had offered once, folding a wrapper. Or maybe he's busy with work, Millie had replied, trying not to sound hurt. But even they knew these were excuses. And hope, that cruel little candle, flickered quietly in their hearts. On the 15th day, they went to the local market. Their budget was tight. Everything was calculated. Yam instead of rice. No fruits today. Milk only for tea. Mary walked when it happened. Crack! The wheelchair wobbled. One of the wheels gave a sickening twist. Before they could react, the chair jerked, tilted, and the right side gave way completely. Mary caught the handles quickly to keep Millie from falling. People walked by. Some stared. Others whispered. But no one offered help. For a moment, they were stranded. Then, Millie did something Mary didn't expect. She brought out her phone and, without hesitation, dialed Jarel's number. "Are you sure?" Mary asked nervously. But Millie had already pressed the green button. "Hello," she said softly when the call connected. "It's Millie. We need your help." She explained their location, the broken wheelchair, their struggle. Jarel didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. "I'll be there soon," he said. And he meant it. The lift that changed everything. In exactly 29 minutes, Jarel pulled up. To their surprise, he wasn't on foot. He arrived in a small, slightly dented but well-kept blue sedan. The car shone from a fresh wash, though Jarel still wore his mechanic's uniform, grease-stained and slightly open at the chest. He wasn't alone. A young apprentice stepped out with him, carrying a tool bag. Jarel rushed to them, kneeling by the wheelchair. He examined it carefully, his brow furrowing with each click and twist. After a few minutes, he stood and shook his head. "It's gone," he said solemnly. "I noticed it was falling apart the first day I helped Mary push it. I should have said something then." Millie said nothing. Mary sighed. "I'll need to take it with me to the shop," Jarel added. "I'll try my best. But for now," he paused, turned to her gently. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. I'll have to help you into my poor and uncomfortable car seat." Without waiting for approval, he stepped closer and in one fluid movement lifted her into his arms. The world stopped. Camilla's breath hitched in her throat. She wasn't prepared, not for the strength of his arms, not for the calm authority of his movements, and certainly not for the unexpected emotion that washed over her. His apprentice quickly opened the car's front door as Jarel carried her like a fragile, treasured possession. Her body was tense, but her heart softened uncontrollably. It was the first time in years that anyone had held her like this, without intention, without calculation, just care. Jarel placed her gently in the seat and buckled her seatbelt. "I'm sorry if that was uncomfortable." Camilla could only nod, eyes wide. At the back seat, Mary watched everything, her heart pounding, her mind racing. She wasn't worried about being found out, not yet. But the thought of this innocent man eventually discovering their lie tugged at her conscience. She wondered, what happens when the truth comes out? Jarel turned to her and handed over his tool bag. "Please hold this for me. I'll take the chair in my trunk." "Of course," she muttered, unable to take her eyes off Camilla's face. The drive was quiet. The apprentice played music from the radio softly, an old love song in a language none of them spoke, but the emotions hummed through the melody. When they reached the house, Jarel parked carefully and stepped out. Without saying a word, he moved around to Camilla's side, and once again lifted her with that same tenderness. This time, Camilla didn't resist. She even relaxed into his chest, louder than the street sounds around them. Mary opened the apartment door.